right?
Yeah, I've actually had a conversation with someone at one of the big ticket agencies, and they're still early. They're not, at least the person I spoke with, they were not making it sound like they're rolling it out tomorrow, but there is a lot of excitement.
Hello, everyone. This is Olga Yarshevsky. I run content strategy for NextChange Group, and I'm here today with our amazing speakers, NextChanges and Blockchain Week's longtime friends and partners. Please give it up for Susan O, Chief Marketing Officer at Garden Bark and Hungry Animals. Hi, Susan. Thank you so much for tuning in. Wes Levitt from Theta Labs. Hey, Wes, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to our roadshow, and we're here today to discuss immediate trends for media, tech, investment, and finance of Metaverse, of bridging digital and physical worlds. So I will start with a question for everyone. So what is Metaverse for you? And do you see two worlds actually intertwining? And will it happen sooner, or will it still at the very, very early stages?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in if you don't mind. I think the broadest framing that I appreciate the most is the idea that the metaverse really becomes the value of the digital over the physical. So I think that's my take, and I'm happy to have people jump in.
Yeah, I also think it's very interesting hearing the varying definitions people are using for everything from all-encompassing digital world that you would spend literally all your time in to a lot of people making, I think, a compelling case that you already are have one foot in the metaverse just with how connected you are today through social media or through the internet in general. It's definitely going to be even more so. Everyone's going to have a new definition for it now that it's the hottest way to raise money is to put metaverse in your deck, and now you can get someone to throw some money at it. So anything is going to be labeled metaverse at this point. But I think the key for me is basically it's some way of creating a digital analog to something that is in the real world. So it can be, not a one-size-fits-all thing. In some cases, it might be a video game or an online world where it is totally representative of the world. In some cases, it might just be one small aspect of it, but it's just this concept of something that can either augment or even replace the analog version of something in your life with something in the digital form, ownership, content, and so on.
That's a good point. So these are like tentacles that really grow from one world to another, and they really do intertwine. And speaking of value, well, one of the buzzwords, and it's actually a new dictionary word now, is NFT. And along with gaming, NFTs are to remain the biggest metaverse trends in 2022. Well, now, Susan, back to you. I know that you've been in this space for a while. What do you see as an immediate NFT trend?
Well, it's like with anything else, that which has value, that which has utility has enduring value, right? So if you see NFTs as these really hot, pretty pricey pixels that, kind of represents the club that you want to belong to, that's awesome. They will pump and dump and repeat cycle. NFTs on everything are everything and can be anything. But just like with anything else, its utility. Can people use it? Does it demark a way that's efficient and transparent? Those NFTs will have enduring value.
Fair enough. Wes, I know that for Theta Labs, 2021 was a very exciting year, and I think you've been into NFT space a lot, right? So what do you think of immediate NFT trends?
Yeah. We had been starting into the NFT space in 2020, but it was really in 2021 where we saw a whole lot of attention from every entertainment company we had spoken to. Creative Artists Agency was one of our early investors, and they had dabbled a little bit, but didn't really take it seriously until it felt like overnight around, I believe it was late 2020, around the time when NBA Top Shot first started taking off, where all of a sudden it was like a switch had flipped, and all of their clients and everyone associated realized that there was something here, and they felt like they were behind the curve because they didn't have an NFT strategy. So I think then it was sort of a FOMO kicking in of not wanting to look like they're the only ones that don't have aren't embracing this in some way. And I think there's a couple different things. One is entertainment industry is always chasing new trends, new ways to reach users and to make them stickier and coming back to their content more often. But they're also looking for new ways to monetize constantly, because a lot of these companies are still built around revenue models that have been around for decades. And so when they see them move to digital, they're starting to get more comfortable with it. Streaming has obviously made a good transition, but they're still wary of anytime their business model is being disrupted by something new and digitally native. It scares them. So I think they want to jump in front of it, and they've learned their lessons from being late in the past. So they'd rather jump in early, experiment, even if the initial ways don't work out, so that they can get in front of new technology coming out rather than be left behind again. And so I think it's good for the space in general, even if a specific project and a new entertainment company launching NFTs or an artist doing it isn't always a success. It's moving the whole space forward as people experiment and try different things. Lets them move from their basic NFTs to like the type Susan's mentioning, where they have more utility or they unlock something within their existing entertainment structure. They're not going to jump right into that. You have to take these baby steps and find out what works and what doesn't, and that moves NFTs forward overall. So it's a good thing.
Increases the market volume too, I guess. Well,
yeah, that as well.
I have a friend who was just like today, he was asking, hey, do you know an entertainment place that's looking for an NFT ticketing solution that they want to white label? Because, the 1155 semi-fungibles are perfect for couponing and ticketing. The IP can belong, right? The 721s is non-fungible, but the 1155s can be a subset underneath them, which is perfect for merchandising, coupons, and vouchers. And what it does is, because it's encrypted and it's mutable, tied to an identity, you can't copy it, right?
Yeah, I've actually had a conversation with someone at one of the big ticket agencies, and they're still early. They're not, at least the person I spoke with, they were not making it sound like they're rolling it out tomorrow. But there is a lot of excitement from some camps within it, because I think they may have found the solution to years and years of either counterfeit tickets, or you have such onerous restrictions on it that can't be counterfeit, but it's a shitty experience for the user, where you can't ever sell it to anyone, or if you change your plans, you have to forfeit the ticket. So something that's totally secure and it can't be duplicated, and it's there's only a set number exists, but it can also be transferred pretty easily to users. It actually, it's a pretty obvious use case for something that exists. It's not searching for a use case; it really has one. Now, there's only 2 or 3 big ticket, at least I'm speaking from US terms, there's only 2 really major ones. And so they're not moving fast, I don't think. But I think it's exciting that at least some of the people are fighting to use NFTs for that, because I think something like that, where it's, you don't even have to know there's actually an NFT under your ticket. It's just being used for what it's bringing to the table, and not as speculation. That'd be good for NFT use cases across the board. I think it'd legitimize it to a lot of other corporate use cases, where they say you don't even have to say the word NFT to your user. In fact, you probably shouldn't, but you can still find a way to find them useful.
Now, I like that, Susan, that you mentioned games and avatars. Top 3 Metaverse tokens by market cap. You can all see that they're all gaming related. So in my understanding, from a very rich but particularly very specific industry, gaming seems to have figured out a product market fit, and now gaming / metaverse projects are pouring into the market like never before. You just need to mention, like Wes just said, you just need to mention NFT or gaming / metaverse, and this is like a magic word. So what shall we do to filter that fantastic amount of projects, and what's the like a particular investment strategy here? Miko, I guess here's to you.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing an incredible volume of kind of game related NFT projects. And I think to me, one of the things that is frustrating is that we have a medium that now conforms a limited digital immortality, right? And we're filling it with largely garbage. So, the thing that I think is really kind of unfortunate is that, like, the vast majority of NFTs in existence, will probably be worthless. So I think it's, the blockchain is doing a really, ace job of memorizing forever a lot of information that will probably end up being landfill, right? So I mean, to me, like, that's a little unfortunate. But I would say that, like, there are aspirational, multi-generational, 4 quadrant $1 trillion evergreen community driven, transmedia franchises being born as we speak. And I think things like, Bored Apes, they're going to create their own video game, right? So, like, we're going to see the birth of kind of digital native decentralized transmedia, and I think those will achieve sort of immortality, right? Because, when you think about the idea, it's evergreen because the community makes it so, right? That there's just constantly going to be people around it, making it more valuable.
One thing that NFT and gaming, this is to Wes's point, is one thing that does a fantastic job is participation. I think that my biggest complaint with a lot of crypto entities has been the fact that people are participating in crypto for simply going and buying tokens. And there are very few individuals or entities who are actually building the infrastructure and going and building innovative projects and participating in this. You see a different trend in the NFT space where you have a lot of creators. And the connection between creators and NFT holders is that messaging, is the subscription to say, I appreciate your art, or I want to be a part of this whole movement. You see a lot of participation in that gaming and NFT space. And you see a lot less of that in the traditional crypto space. And I think that to me is encouraging.
So no, we cannot mention the finance aspect, because decentralized finance is like a backbone, right, for metaverses. But the more virtual this reality is, the more gray the area of financial realm becomes, right?
That is just fascinating. And this is where the convergence of the various layers and various ecosystem come together. That while the stablecoin or the DeFi ecosystem is purely used on looking into financing and figuring out as to valuation risk, all the good stuff, layer one is providing the framework for processing transaction, giving you the token that actually has some value. And I think eventually you have gamification of these and NFTs, the ability for these tokens to be able to evolve in multiple ecosystems simultaneously and still hold value in other one in absence of the bridging protocols that we are yet to develop, I think is simply fascinating. And to me, that is the real metaverse.
Yes, that's like the holy grail, right, of personal financial sovereignty. Yeah, in a way, it's like having your cake and eating it too. It's alchemy.
I broadly agree with all the positive sentiments here, but one thing I just want to warn against is it feels like a little bit there may be a trend toward the financialization of everything in the same way that, and this is a U.S. perspective, I think it's probably worse here than anywhere else, but it starts out in traditional finance where it was kind of a boring old industry where there wasn't a lot of money to be made. They just provided services, like useful ones, like lending on your illiquid assets, and everyone needs a bank account. That's great. But then come the 80s, 90s, when everything was turned into a derivative, and I actually started off my career working in mortgage-backed securities. So, I've seen firsthand the chopping of into nonsensical ways of, like, here's 80 different ways these 100 real estate transactions can be turned into 6 bonds, and so on and so on. And I see a little bit of what feels like that when you see liquidity pools that are reinvested into mining farms, and then someone issues a token that represents the different profits of 8 different mining farms and all that. And I fear it may be going too far in that direction. I think it's totally great, the use cases you guys are talking about, and you can't have any type of metaverse or any digital world without having the corresponding way to access your assets. I got to be able to transfer tokens to you guys. You have to be able to make a loan to me if I sell you something and so on. That's all great. Just remember that to focus on the ones where it's providing value to an end user and not just away from some financial firm or the crypto equivalent to just get more money out of folks.
You mean like a sophisticated pachinko machine or a mousetrap, right? Like that's why I don't touch synthetics. I mean, all those like BCC and ETRAF synthetics are like derivatives of derivatives. Like I'm not quite sure how it works. Yeah,
and I think some of it's done. I think some of it's done with good intentions, but it's basically the crypto equivalent of when you had a CDO squared, where like we collateralized these debt obligations, then we chop those up and then put them into different collateralized debt obligations, and it's basically like 2008 all over again.
Yeah, but I think it's not just so barring the lending and collateralization protocols and AMMs, the simple transaction between monetizing your NFTs, whether it's in form of royalties or whether it's in form of the fact that I'm selling my NFT, and 1511, for example, allows you to have a clause that every time asset or NFT an artist sold, I get a commission from that. That translates into a simple liquid crypto asset. That's still financialization. Would you not classify that as financialization as well, barring the crypto lending and borrowing and everything else, just simply an exchange mechanism?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess that more accurately, I should have said we're against over financialization, because financial, which is subjective, but financialization in of itself is all crypto, really. That's not a knock on crypto itself. I guess just knock on. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a financialization for its own sake, not for the purpose of adding value to two users trying to transact or two businesses trying to transact.
I think, Wes's point is really fundamental, right? Which is when you look at things like play to earn and the sustainability of token economies, right? You absolutely need to look at two things. One of them is, does the kind of reserve of the coin have sufficient, is the reserve big enough that it can buy back tokens when it dips, right? Because if your reserve can buy the dip, you're a good economy. And if it can't, you're Turkey, Argentina, Venezuela, or you lost your peg, right? You lost your peg and your economy is now bad, right? So but the point is how does your treasury actually increase value? And that's the thing Wes was saying, which is that it actually increases value by providing value, right? So in a sense, that's the final say, right? Which is that ultimately, if you don't provide value, you're going to lose your peg. Like there's no question, right? So the question becomes, how do you keep your peg? Add value to a user more than investor, right? So as long as the user value is greater than the investor value, you'll always be able to hang on to your peg unless you mismanage your network really badly.
Real quick, 20 seconds, two super hot trends for Metaverse related reality 2022.
Yeah.
You look
for two that come to mind first. The first one, you're already kind of seeing this, but every major brand, every company that's consumer facing is trying to figure out a way to do something metaverse related. They don't even understand what it is half the time, but they're all making these new forays into carving out space in digital worlds. So I'm sure some of them will be crap, but I think just because of so many different new experiments in the space, you'll see more and more cool cases emerging. And I guess the second related trend is because these are now totally mainstream brands jumping into this. And I think in a lot of cases, for the first time, telling their millions of users what even a metaverse is, it might be the first time they even hear the word. You'll see a lot more mainstream folks be pulled into it this year, which is probably going to have all kinds of interesting consequences, going from a niche little crypto focus to mainstream people we brought in. But it probably can only be good to have more users drawn in and more diverse groups using metaverse outside of our little crypto tribe. So should be very interesting to see.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Well, thank you, Nitin Gaur, Mika Matsumura, Wes Levitt, Susan O, Amolga Yershevsky. I'll see y'all in Dubai very soon.